Thank you very much for this occasion where I'll speak on a subject which is of utmost importance to our country and to the Hindus all over the world. I'm pleased to see the distinguished people on the floor here. Mr. Singapuri, the creator of this temple, Dr. Rana, the unstoppable Ramanji, the pioneer in new dimension in Indo-US relations, Mr. Shadi Kumar and his daughter. Chicago is a very famous place for both Swami Vivekananda and Al Capone. And that's what the world is all about. Forces of good and forces of evil. And we have to fight them. The topic is global relevance of Hindu identity. Now, why is Hindu identity of global relevance? Because the Hindus have been targeted practically all over the world. Some places reported, some places not reported. In Guyana, for example, the Hindus are even today suffering a great deal of atrocities. Not reported. Hindus were 27% of Pakistan when it was created. Today it's less than 1%. If there's been any religious cleansing, that was Pakistan, in Pakistan. But not a word you will hear about it with all these human rights groups. In Bangladesh, in 1947, Hindus were 32%. Today down to 7%. In our own country, 500,000 Kashmiri Pandits were driven out and made refugees in their own country. I've never heard of this, that you can become a refugee in your own country. And the slides which were shown showed you what hell they went through. Not a word. Similarly, in Kerala, in Malappuram, Hindus cannot sell their property to other Hindus. They have to sell it to Muslims. And no Muslim can sell his property to Hindus. In our own country, with a constitution, this has happened. Not to mention love jihad. Target again is the Hindu community. So when the Hindus are, and of course I haven't mentioned Kazakhstan, where temples are being demolished on a regular basis, and or that you have 2 million Hindus working in Saudi Arabia, they cannot build a temple, they cannot celebrate Diwali, they cannot hold even Satyanarayana Puja inside their house, and they even cannot carry a picture of Ramchandraji in their pocket. So this kind of put upon, this kind of oppression the Hindus have been through. And within our own country, for 800 years, first the Islamic invasion, and then the indirect Christian invasion through the British. What hell we went through in that. But at the same time, the indomitable spirit of the Hindu still lives on. And that is why today, even today, we are 82% of the population. Islam invaded Persia, which was that time 100% Zoroastrian. In 15 years, it became a 100% Muslim country. through all the usual tactics that are used by Islamic invasions. Mesopotamia, Babylon, that was run over by Islamic invasion. In 17 years, 100% Islam. Egypt, 21 years, 100% Islam. Europe, Christians converted Europe to 100% Christianity in 50 years. But in India, 800 years rule of Islam, 200 years rule of Christian, and we are still 82%. That shows the difference. And that's because every part of India kept fighting, never put down, never surrendered. Maybe here and there a few people. But generally there was revolt in the country. It's not reported in our history books. It's not taught in our schools and colleges. Because Macaulay ensured that textbooks will not report this, and we continue it for the last 70 years. Now, thanks to the BJP coming, wow, changes are. And I'd like to tell all the enemies of India that BJP is going to be in power for a very long time. That's because the last election, the BJP and its predecessor, the Janasangh, the maximum vote they ever got was 21%. But in 2014, we got 31%. And with the help of allies, we got absolute majority. I mean, on our own, we got our absolute majority. And if this 31% goes to 40%, we'll get 2/3 majority. We intend to do it. Recently in the State Assembly of UP, people said because demonetization, people are angry, they're going to vote against us. Then we made another blunder according to liberals and the media. We share one thing in common with President Trump. We don't like the media. Or rather, the type of media which is been dominating the discourse. But we in fact could not find a single worthy candidate to be put up who was a Muslim. So for the first time, 404 seats of UP, BJP could not put up a single Muslim. And everybody said, now you're finished. Because of demonetization and this intolerance. As if the emergency was tolerance. They said you will win, you will lose. 125 constituencies. You can't get elected unless the Muslim community supports you. And out of those 125, we finally won 85 of them. Because in these constituencies, the women of the Muslim community voted for us. Because we promised them the abolition of triple talaq. We also found, to our surprise, the Shia community voted for us. The Bhairavis, the Barelvis, Muslims voted for us. The Khojas, and the Boras, they also voted for us. And what is left of the Muslim community? Wahhabi Muslims, a handful. They cannot decide in the election. And if the Hindu consolidation continues, irrespective of what happens on demonetization or in GST or X, Y, Z, people are going to vote now for the new assertion of India as a united country with a Hindu base. I have the credit, to my credit, I was the first one to predict that we would get absolute majority. Nobody in my party thought we would get absolute majority. But it turned out, because I know that in the past the Congress strategy was divide the Hindus on caste, region, language, state-wise, and unite the minorities. Now we have reversed the formula. We have decided to unite the Hindus and divide the minorities. So when I am today talking to you about Hindu identity, I am not talking in terms of creating a new movement, because the movement is already well on its way, and that we hope to, through the power of the state and within the constitution, bring about changes which will unite our people as one people and not divided on a petty, local and other inessential reasons. The constitution has so many elements of the Hindu agenda that people don't even know about it. I was told that how can you tell people that what they can eat and what they cannot eat, because the ban of cow slaughter is an infringement of our fundamental right to eat. Well, all fundamental rights in India are subject to reasonable restrictions. And Article 48 of the Constitution says that there shall be a ban on cow slaughter. This is a constitution. This was a constitution not made by the BJP. It was by founding fathers who at that time went by the freedom struggle name of Congress. Today's Congress is not the same Congress. That Congress was Indian National Congress, this is Italian National Congress. I think, of course, if I may take, because this is a BJP meeting, I mean sponsored by BJP, so I must be given some latitude in speaking. I have promised the congressmen that I will unite them. I said the next working committee of your party will take place inside PRJ, because all your members are going there, for sure. I therefore tell you today that it's an international requirement for the Hindus to develop a clear identity which supersedes all other sub-identities. We have sub-identities, I'm not denying that. I'm a Tamil, so I have a sub-identity. But there is a national identity which shall supersede that whenever there is a clash between the two. When there is a clash between national interest and state interests or community interests, national interest shall prevail. That's what it is. And this is not unusual. The Jewish community was persecuted all over the world. Of course, I'm happy to say that India was the only country in the world which didn't persecute the Jews. We feel kinship with them. We had some differences with their clerics, the Jewish clerics, because they thought we are polytheistic and they are monotheistic, so there's a fundamental contradiction. Then Swami Dayanand Saraswati of Coimbatore, he led a delegation, I also was part of that, and the chief rabbi of Israel came and we had a conference, and we finally convinced the Jewish religious leaders that we have only one God, but it's manifestation. But it's a manifestation which is multiple. But the God is only one, which we call as Ishwar. And they were convinced and said, now there is no fundamental contradiction between the Jewish religion and the Hindu religion. Ms. Shapiro here was eloquent about the togetherness that we feel between the Hindus and the Jews. And anybody who thinks of national interest of India will be for the Jews. Because they have technology. They have turned desert into green fields by sheer desalination of seawater. I once told Ms. Jayalalitha, she's departed, but I had told her, why are you fighting over with Karnataka for this Kaveri water? I said, get 4 desalination plants from Israel, put it along the coast, you will generate enough water for the whole of Tamil Nadu. And if you want to take revenge against Karnataka, then you pump water in the opposite direction of Kaveri. That is the amount of water you can generate. And this the Israelis have. We have 150 million cows in our country, but only average yield is 200 liters per year. One Israeli cow gives you 11,000 liters per year. And imagine if 150 million Indian cows started giving 11,000 liters per year. All of us will have to swim in milk to go from one place to another. There's so much to get from them. Yes, there are 8 million people surrounded by 125 million very fierce-looking Arabs. But we have an internal commitment that if ever Israel faced an existential problem, the 1.25 billion Hindus will stand up for them and fight for them. Let's not forget that during the times when we ignored Israel, wouldn't even have a look at them, at that stage they supplied us spare parts and weaponry in the 1965 war against Pakistan, the 1971 war against Pakistan, and the 1999 war against Pakistan. And I frankly feel that in part of this consolidation of democratic forces in which the Hindu identity is a very important part, we need 3 great democracies to come together: the United States, Israel, and India. And somebody asked me why these 3. I said there's complementarity. The Israelis have the brains, the Americans have the hardware, and we have the human beings. So you want troops to be deployed, we have enough to send anywhere. We are still reluctant in our country because it's still the old mindset. But there will be very soon that the whole of the Indian Ocean will not be monitored by the Americans. They are already overextended, but India will take it over and monitor it for the democratic forces. We are welcome as a people in Afghanistan, and Bombay Films has already reached there, and everybody is watching Bombay Films and singing Bombay songs. Culturally, we are very close. And of course, we have a long historical tradition. Shakuni was from there. I think we need to re-export some Indian Shakunis back to Afghanistan. Gandhari was there, she was from Kandahar. So, therefore, these links being there, so this whole large South Asia, as some people have been trying to rename us, that South Asia can indeed become, for us, a supporter, and we their supporter. Already we have shown the Chinese that when it comes to Bhutan, we are ready to stick to our stand for the protection of Bhutan. Of course, the Chinese and the Indians were very civilized because the maximum confrontation we had was just pushing each other. There was not a single bullet fired. I think we should teach the Chinese some kabaddi so that we can. Now, what is identity? Many scholars have defined it differently. In the United States, Professor Samuel Huntington of Harvard University, whom I knew very well, he was in the Department of Political Science when I was in the Department of Economics. And he wrote a book called Who Are We? When we say we are Americans, who are we? And you would not believe it, but what he has said, very few people challenged. He said America may be a nation in political terms, and there may be a variety of citizens of our country who are of different ethnic origins. But that is citizenship under the Constitution. But the identity of America, the idea of America, is white, Anglo-Saxon, Protestant, English-speaking people. This is what he has written. No challenge yet. Can America be called a white, Anglo-Saxon, Protestant, English-speaking country? I would say 30% of America is now speaking Spanish, if I'm not wrong. And at the rate we Hindus are going, they will be soon speaking Sanskrit also. Because Sanskrit, according to the NASA, is the most computer-compliant language for artificial intelligence, and that's what's going to be the future. But he said this is the idea of America, is white Anglo-Saxon, Protestant, Christian, speaking English. The British Prime Minister was asked, what is the identity of an Englishman? Since we have so many Muslims, we have so many Hindus, we have Jews, etc., etc., what is the identity of an Englishman? He said, Englishman is one who's Christian. Nobody objected to it. You can go to Google and just put it in the search engines, you'll get it. The Chinese have said anybody who is Han Ren, anywhere in the world, whatever his citizenship, he's Chinese. They have all had different definitions. But for us, Indians, what is our identity is, it's a continuing civilization of the Hindus. Others have joined in, but the dominant idea of India is a Hindu culture. I'm not saying Hindu religion. In fact, Hindu is a category. It's not a religion. It's Sanatan Dharma, which is our religion. But we use the word Hindu now in both sense. We should stop using it. It should be used in a national cultural sense. The Constitution of India, and many people are surprised when I say this, Article 25, Explanation 2. Please go and read the Constitution of India, especially those of you who have a liberal friends, show it to them. This is what the Constitution says. And what does the Constitution say? Hindu in India is one who is not a Muslim and not a Christian. And of course not a Zoroastrian. These three are the only categories. If you are not, then you are a Hindu. And that means the Sikhs, the Buddhists, the Jains, they also come under the category of Hindu in the cultural sense. Not in the religious sense. Sikh religion is a distinct religion. Buddhist religion is a distinct religion. Jain religion is a distinct religion. But they were all born in India. And they have the same principles, basic principles. So to call them Hindu in cultural terms is not wrong at all. There is no concept that we Hindus in additionally have a dominating identity called Brahmins, Kshatriya, etc., etc. We very often get divided into that. So, when you go back and see what was this Varna system, which in my opinion has now become so ossified that we have no alternative but to just scrap it altogether. Because according to DNA studies, all Indians from Kanyakumari to Kashmir, all Indians from Jamnagar to Dibrugarh, they are all of the same DNA. There is no difference between them. Yes, people have, some are tall, some are short, some are dark, some are fair, but that's pigmentation. This complexion is a pigmentation, it's got nothing to do with race. Race is DNA. And the Journal of Genetics of many universities, the University of Cambridge, the University of Mysore, the University of Houston, they have all published research based on DNA. And they say Indian DNA is the same. Which means all this theory about Aryans and Dravidians, this was a country of Dravidians, then the Aryans came from Europe via Khyber Pass, beat the Dravidians black and blue and drove them south, and we are two racial ethnic communities. There is no ethnicity at all in India. There is only one ethnic group, and that's the Hindu. And surprisingly, the DNA of Muslims also is the same as Hindus. That is the dominant DNA. So there's all this talk that you came from abroad, you came from Arab countries and dreaming of being descendants of Ghori and Ghazni. Foolishness. The Muslims should be disabused of that. I would say Hindustani is a concept that if you are a Hindu or if your ancestors were Hindus, then you are a Hindustani. And anyone who is not willing to accept it can be a citizen of India under the constitution, but his identity will not be Hindu identity. So this unification is absolutely necessary for us to become a world power. There is no birth-born determination of what your caste is or your varna is. That is not, I am not the authority for it. Lord Krishna is the authority. Where does he say? He says it in Bhagavad Gita. That gunas will decide your, whether you are a Brahmin, Kshatriya or Shudra or a Vaishya. And it is a decentralization of labor. Two big rishis of India, Bhrigu and Bhardwaja, they decided that the social stratification should be based on a decentralization of power. And power they identified as fourfold: knowledge, weapons, wealth, and land. And said that the society, the most stable society is that where these four are distributed, no one having more than one of this. And so Brahmin is a Brahmin only if he pursues knowledge. But he cannot have weapons, he cannot have wealth, and he cannot have land. The Kshatriya is one who has weapons, but he can't make policy. For policy he has to go to the Brahmin. So therefore, you had this decentralization. People born in a house where the father and mother are Brahmins need not necessarily be a Brahmin. For instance, Vishwamitra, the Rishi of Rishis, was born in a Kshatriya family. But he became a Maharishi. The person who wrote the Mahabharata, Vedavyasa, his mother was a fisherwoman. But he became a Maharishi. Kalidasa, the greatest poet we produced, was actually a Vanavasi, cutting branches of trees. Before he was, some mischievous Brahmins got together and made him marry the princess, and she educated him to become the greatest poet. Similarly, Valmiki was a Dalit. rose to be a Maharishi, wrote the Ramayana. So there's never been that. And there's no primacy for Brahmins, except that they were purveyors of knowledge. And if you deviated from that, you deserve to be killed. Ravan was a Brahmin. Most people don't know that he was a Brahmin. And certainly Karunanidhi did not know he was a Brahmin. He argued with me. He said, I will not allow Ram Leela to be celebrated in India because Rama is an Aryan. He's a Brahmin. I said, he's not a Brahmin, he's a Kshatriya. He said, already he's an Aryan. But our God is Ravan. And this man, Rama, came and killed him. So we can never celebrate Ram Leela. Well, I brought all the books that I could, including the Tamil translation of Ramayana, and explained to him that Ravan was not a Sri Lankan. In fact, he was born near Delhi, in Noida, in a village called Bisrak. You can go and see it even today. There's a big signboard there. And they don't celebrate Diwali in that village. Then he went to Kailash and he prayed. And you know Lord Shiva, that's why he's called Bholanath. He gave him a boon. With that boon he came, hunted around, which is the most prosperous part of India. Kuber, his cousin, was ruling in Lanka. So he came there, conquered Lanka, became its king. After much argument, Karunanidhi stopped celebrating Ram Leela. But this Aryan Dravidian one was in mind. That they are two different people, they are two different communities, all that. And he kept on saying, Rama is an Aryan, Rama is an Aryan. I will never agree. One day, when the UPA came to power, he got a Setu Samudram project launched, which required cutting through Ram Setu, the bridge that the monkeys built for Rama, so they could cross into Lanka. It's still there. So unfortunately, that bridge is built on coral rocks. It's still existing, but it blocks any ship from going between the ocean, that is the Park Strait, and the Gulf of Mannar, between India and Sri Lanka. So we have to go, if you want to go from Kanyakumari to Chennai, you have to go around Sri Lanka. So he came up with this project, we'll cut through Ram Setu and do it. So the whole Indian Hindu community was upset. Finally they asked me to go to court. I went to court and got a stay order. And then I started argued for 2 years, and won the case. They said to some of the